Welcome back as I continue my Sweet Bird of Youth analysis, moving on to Act 2, Scene 2. This is a very pivotal scene. In fact, I'm going to have 3 separate videos. So much happens in this scene. First of all, we meet some new characters, including Miss Lucy. And most importantly, this scene is the climax, because we learn that in the Royal Palm Hotel, it's not only Princess and Chance who have a room, Miss Lucy also has a room, as Boss has been paying for it for months. And in addition, Boss Finley is going to have a big rally that will be televised to the south. So clearly, characters who loathe one another, characters with a lot of past, are going to meet for the first time in the play. So it's going to create a lot of intense moments. So because this scene is so important, let's take time with the setting. So remember that it's still this traditional but still popular hotel in the Moorish style. So something like the picture I'm showing you here. There's a piano playing in the background. We don't actually see the piano, we just hear it, and there's going to be a couple of important songs that are representative of what the characters are feeling. We will also meet some of Chance's classmates from high school. Notice that William says these couples represent society in St. Cloud. So they're upper class, they're wealthy, all those things Chance wasn't in high school, but that his charisma and handsomeness made up for, and that he's been trying all these years to accumulate, but to no success so far. And we have this new character, Stuff, who is now the new bartender, basically, at the Royal Palm Hotel. He's interesting because he's supposed to kind of be like the young version of Chance. Before moving up to be the bartender, he was working at a drugstore soda fountain. So we think of drugstores like CVS or Walgreens, where we go to buy medicine, but at the time they had that, but in addition they were kind of like a diner where you could buy shakes and sodas and things of the kind. So pretty low level job. That's what Stuff had. Now he's moved up. But notice that William says that he moves with an indolent male grace that he may have unconsciously remembered admiring in Chance. Chance used to work here, and now Stuff is filling in his role, and he might even be copying the way Chance moved, just kind of lazily, but still with a lot of grace. And what I find really interesting is that if wealth was so important to Chance, imagine how emasculating it must have been to work as a barman in the place that all his friends could just hang out at. It must have been a blow to his ego at the time. And yet he can't seem to get away from this hotel, as we've discussed before. Next, we learn about Miss Lucy. So we may already have our impressions of this woman who's been Boss Finley's mistress, especially if she was a mistress at the time that Boss's wife was sick. It seems pretty atrocious. And she's dressed to the nines. She has a ball gown that's elaborately ruffled. She looks like a Southern belle. Her hair is done up in a really bouffant, which means like really high style. And there's one little girlish curl that's coming off her face. So she must be younger than Boss, but we're not quite sure. Maybe just, I would put her in her late 30s if we had to give her an age. So she's much younger, but not as young as Chance or Heavenly. Notice that Williams describes her as having a sharp little terrier face. A terrier is a breed of dog that originally was bred to hunt. And their bark would be so vicious that the animals they were hunting would come out of their barrels, and then the hunters could grab them. So there's something predatory about that description for this woman. Is she hunting Boss's wealth, her status? She comes in and she's really upset because she hasn't been placed at a table with Boss. So even though Boss's wife has died for some time, she feels like she's never going to be that official wife partner to Boss. So she's really upset, and she's upset specifically at Stuff, who we later find out belongs to the Youth for Tom Finley Club, this gang of what Boss described as delinquents who've done some pretty terrible things, but are supposed to be this official rallying group to help support Boss's re-election. The scene I want to focus on, though, is between Aunt Nonnie and Chance. We saw Aunt Nonnie before completely be disempowered by Boss and acting very flustered and nervous, and we find out it's because she wants to make sure Chance gets out of St. Cloud, and it seems like there's a lot more affection there than we would initially find out. And what I find so interesting is that last time we saw on Nonnie, she had no power, and yet in this scene, she's the one telling Chance, you come out here. She's demanding much like a mom would a small child. And I love how Chance reacts. Williams describes it as suddenly his effusive manner collapses as she stares at him gravely. He's putting on this show of being happy and joyful and successful. Remember, he came in the Cadillac with the clothes that Princess had purchased for him. But all that is a facade, and Aunt Nonnie is able to break that facade just by saying, you come out here. And then the lighting and the staging changes. We're still in the same set, but the lighting on the bar area with the couples and with stuff goes dark, and instead what has been lighted is a bench with royal palms in the background. So it almost seems like once the limelight is off of Chance in front of other people, he can be more himself. And this is one of the few scenes where we see the genuine Chance, the Chance that Heavenly fell in love with, the Chance that was sweet but had a lot of insecurities. Aunt Nonnie can bring that out of him. Also really interesting, remember that piano that we can't see but we can hear from? The piano starts playing a song. You should be pretty familiar with it. Williams calls it Quiéreme Mucho, which is actually a misnomer. The song is called Bésame Mucho, a famous Spanish song of the time. And in rough translation, it's basically saying, kiss me like it's the last night together, but I'm afraid that I'll love you only to lose you again. So the song is very nostalgic, which fits with the mood of this scene because Chance wants to go back to his popularity of his youth and when he was with Heavenly. But the song is also very foreboding. This might be the last night he is with Heavenly. It might very well be the case that he will lose her and not be able to regain her again. Even though Chance is being more honest, he's still a little bit delusional, much like this plan he's come up with for this acting contest. Because he keeps asking these questions like, why does everyone treat me like a criminal? And when Aunt Nonnie says, ask your conscience that, he's like, what question? No what? So it's like you've had a fight with a boyfriend, the boyfriend knows what he did, but he's playing dumb. Like, what did I do? I have no idea. Chance knows it. He doesn't know all the details though. The scene with Tom later on will reveal that. But he is really perplexed as to what he could have possibly have done for everybody to want him to get out of town so quickly. And Aunt Nonnie doesn't want to say it because the subject is so sensitive, much like George Scudder in the hotel room in Act 1, Scene 1. But she's trying to bring him down to what he was like before. And she says, oh, Chance, why have you changed like you've changed? Why do you live on nothing but wild dreams now and have no address where anybody can reach you in time to reach you? Notice the dash. She's probably talking about his mom's death, but she doesn't want to say it because she knows that that might send him off. But in a motherly, genuinely concerned way, she's trying to say, why have you changed? To the point where I can't recognize you, to the point where you're actually selling your body and sleeping around with these women. Why would you let yourself do that just for wild dreams? We've talked about Chance having these impossible dreams before, but I like the way she phrases it. They're wild. A lot like Princess, the tiger, is wild. They don't seem to be controllable. It's beyond his ability to control himself. And as proof of that, Chance actually likes the description too. Wild dreams, yes, isn't life a wild dream? And he takes a pill and swallows it with some alcohol. Probably the same kind of pills that Princess had swallowed earlier in Act 1, Scene 1. And when Aunt Nonnie questions him about it, he says, yes, I took a wild dream and washed it down with another dream. So his coping mechanisms are a lot like Princess's now. He took a pill that was one wild dream and he washed it down with another wild dream, which is alcohol. So he clearly can't cope with reality. He questions what Aunt Nonnie's trying to say and tries to not think about it. He and Princess are acting so similarly at this point. And he brings up his insecurities. He brings up, have you forgotten what was expected of me? And Aunt Nonnie tells him, nobody expected you anything but to be sweet and honest. And he thinks that's not true, that when he was in high school, he had so much potential that he hasn't been able to live up to it. So ambition versus unfulfilled dreams is really at the forefront here in this scene. And he tells us something about his time in high school where he wrote and directed and starred in this play called The Valiant, which means the brave. And Heavenly was the other person in the play. And he becomes this younger version of himself as he's telling the story of how he and Heavenly rode up in a train to the contest and drove back in a train. And that was the first night they were together. And he starts singing this song and he brings up Aunt Nonnie, and Aunt Nonnie starts singing it too. And Aunt Nonnie can't help but sing along. And even though she kind of scolds him, you do take advantage. You can see it's playful now. She's lost some of her edge to just command him and get him out of there. She clearly loves this boy and is being nostalgic with him in this moment where he starts to sing. But Aunt Nonnie brings back reality. Chance, you didn't win second place in this contest. You won fourth. Actually, it was honorable mention. They just called it fourth place. Chance doesn't disagree with her, but says, but, so that conjunction, that switch, lets us know that even that he doesn't want to admit as a failure. Sure, maybe I got fourth place, but it was on a national contest. That's more than anybody else has done. And then he goes back and tells the story of how he and Heavenly slept together for the first time. We know that she was 15 and he was 17. What we didn't know is that when it came down to the moment where they took off their clothes, Chance backed out and he started to say no. Maybe he got scared, maybe he thought they were too young. We don't know quite what it was, but it's surprising to find out that he actually wanted to stop the act altogether. But it was Heavenly who insisted, and it was Chance who, after their intimate moment, he's the one that cried. So this sweet boy that Aunt Nonnie has been talking about, that's the sweet boy that now gets revealed in this memory. But that gets attached to his need for ambition and to succeed. After that moment with Heavenly, he swore in his heart that I'd never come in second again. Notice, Aunt Nonnie had just corrected that he didn't come in second, he came in fourth. But in his mind, he's completely rewritten that memory to have come in second. Like, he almost got it. If he had just tried a little harder, if he hadn't messed up his lines, if that fat girl that he talks about hadn't messed up the lines, maybe he could have won. So he's told himself this story, and now he wants to prove it with this contest. Even though Aunt Nonnie's saying it's a false contest, those are false papers. Heavenly's not the same girl you fell in love with. She's faded. We know it has something to do with the operation. We know she considers herself dead. Chance has not seen her like that. He thinks, that Heavenly can still be that same 15-year-old that he fell in love with. And then he says something that's completely wrong. Nothing goes that quick, not even youth. And Aunt Nonnie says, yes, it does. Because youth is the thing that is especially fleeting. It goes away in the blink of an eye, and Chance is desperately trying to hold on to this delusion that he can recapture it with this fake contest. And Aunt Nonnie best psychologically assesses him at the end when she says, what you want to go back to is your clean, unashamed youth, and you can't. You think this contest is a way to redeem yourself, to erase the last 10 years where you've made all these mistakes, to erase everything that's happened to Heavenly. You want to go back to that 17-year-old boy who cried after he was intimate with his girlfriend, but you can't. Those things have all happened. So this scene does an incredible job of showing that juxtaposition between Aunt Nonnie in a motherly way, trying to bring reality to Chance, and Chance refusing to do so, even as we learn more about what he was like as a young man. There's a lot more to this scene, and I will review it with you in